So I'm Gretta Louw, and I'm an artist. I'm Australian, but I'm based in Germany. And I'm here at Laboral with my collaborator Isaiah Jungarrayi. We're presenting Future Present Desert, which is a video installation that was commissioned by Laboral for Monsters of the Machine. And then I'm also presenting a work of my own, which is a series of GIFs from a series that's about cloud computing.
Yeah, my name is Australiano, and I work in my community back in Australia.
For me, Future Present Desert is really looking at the concept of fear and how that concept shifts and changes over time. So in the piece, it's talking about very traditional stories, ghost stories, a boogeyman kind of figure. It's talking about bush spirits who inhabit and protect the land from people who shouldn't be in that part of the land. But then it's also talking about UFOs and a kind of new technological threat.
Sometimes when you're in the bush, you're going to see these birds flying around. The birds, when they fly around close to you, while it's land on the trees, they warn you. Somebody's coming around.
I was speaking with Mark Garrett, the curator, before I went on a recent trip to Lajamanu, and I knew that I wanted to do something in collaboration with, when Mark invited me to be part of the show, I knew that I wanted to do something in collaboration with Waniyaka. And yeah, I began thinking about, really for me, I guess, about the idea of a monster and what that kind of represents. And for me, it is a kind of embodiment of fear. So it's a way that we process fear and kind of externalize fear. So it's something that we're creating a monster to understand our own fear, or to sort of work through that, I guess, in some way. And working with the Art Centre, I really wanted to examine the different ways that we experience fear, and kind of blend those together and look at it throughout time. So the traditional kind of ghost stories, but then also real life stories. So there's a person in the video who tells the story of a really scary experience that happened to him when he was in prison. And these are kind of real contemporary realities for Aboriginal people in Australia. I think there's but I wanted to blend those things together in such a way that you can't pick them apart.
Yeah, the fears. Some of the evil things, evil spirits you can't see, you can only feel. Yeah, like when they're watching you, you've been watched. You can't even see it, or you can only feel. Yeah.
Some kids get frightened, and yeah, they're feeling, and then make us feel that way too.
And we call it Coco monster. Yeah, in the bush.
Yeah, I think for me, what's really interesting is there's this totally different kind of mythology of the monster, and yet there are so many parallels as well. So when we're talking about the fear of being watched, we were out camping in the desert, and we were looking up at the stars, and there's this beautiful, amazing night sky with just these crystal clear stars. But we're talking about satellites and how we are so far we're 600, 700 kilometers from the nearest town, but we can be seen out there through satellites. And I think it's really interesting the way that this sort of very traditional idea of the koko, the monster, and being watched is reproducing itself within the context of technological, scientific culture as well.
Yeah, you can only know when you ask,
Stand up.
Yeah, standing up. What you got a goosebump or?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. This is something that's kind of been lost to us, in the West. When we look at media hype and things like that, what are we afraid of? We're afraid of shark attacks. terrorist attacks, which are so rare, but we don't seem to have that same fear reaction of being watched, of being spied upon, of the NSA. That doesn't occur to us anymore. And I think this is really about what I was saying before, about getting back to this idea of authenticity of fear, and what should we really be afraid of? What is there really to fear?
We have alarm, like alarm letting us know. A bird talking and telling us there's a monster. You better go away from that area.
Yeah, so it's really this idea of being in tune with the environment around you and hearing those cues that the environment's giving you.
Bird connecting with us, like Aboriginal people.
So the really great thing with Future Present Desert is that we worked really together on this, also with other artists from the Warniyaka Art Centre. And I think what really makes our collaborative work strong is that we come at it from very different points of view. So I'm coming at it as a Western white Australian woman who lives in Germany, and Isaiah and the other Warniyaka artists are coming at it as warlpiri people who live in a remote Indigenous community in Australia. Yeah, a lot of the really sort of unique aesthetic in the video, the really atmospheric parts. This was the two of us camping out in the bush near Lajamanu, which is a town where in the middle of the Tanami desert where Isaiah lives. And everybody else that we were camping with was sleeping. We could hear them snoring. And the two of us were running around in the middle of the desert. There's no lights anywhere. You just have stars and darkness, and we were running around with cameras and lights and really experimenting out there. So it was very much about, experimenting together to come up with the sort of aesthetic look of the piece. I've been working with the Warniyaka Art Centre for 5 or 6 years now. It's really developed into a very meaningful collaboration where we've worked together on a lot of different projects. I've visited the community many times. A lot of artists from there have come, stayed with me in my house in Germany. We've travelled to exhibitions together. And it came about through social media, really. So I was really interested in working or learning more about Aboriginal art and culture, and ended up coming across Warniyaka art on Twitter, I think it was, and the art centre manager, Louisa. And we sort of, began talking and just following each other and having some vague contact. And then it wasn't long before an opportunity came up for me to go there as an artist in residence. So then I lived out there for 4 months. And that was the first time that I was there for a longer period of time. And I just found the art making really exciting, and met already that first time really great artists like Isaiah, who are doing super interesting things with media and experimenting with media in ways that the sort of media art establishment internationally doesn't. So over the years, that's just become really important to me, because I think there are voices that need to be heard outside of the kind of mostly white, mostly northern, Western, mainstream, urban, digital art and contemporary art sort of circles. I think that we can learn a lot from people in other places, with other experiences, in other cultures. And I think especially we can learn a lot about media, because, the way that I use Facebook is always going to be totally different to the way that Isaiah uses Facebook. He lives in a really different context than I do. And so I'm, think that that's really valuable to learn about that, to understand how the network functions at its edges, if you know what I mean, where it's fractured, where it doesn't always work properly. And also, then it is really about fulfilling some of the kind of utopian, I guess, promise that the internet holds, which is, we collaborate, we're friends, but we live really, really far apart from each other. And that's only possible because Lajamanu is now connected to the internet. In my other piece as well, which is about the cloud, there's a very strong symbol of the jellyfish as a sort of proposed alternative symbol for what we now call the cloud. And I think that for me also is about understanding that all of these things that we're talking about, you know, of the monster of the machine, all of it is based in the natural world. All of it is based in the physical world. None of it is abstract or digital or, you know, disembodied. It all exists in the physical world. And I think, you know, that for me is something that's really important about this collaboration, is that I always keep coming back to the body, the land, place, nature, these things that are the absolute foundation of any sort of further discussion that we have, you know, about technology or about media or about culture, digitalization, accelerationism. These things all come back to our bodies and the place, and, you know,
Yeah.
and that's something that is still extremely strong in warlpiri culture.
Yeah, when we speak into the land, and land will speak back, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will connect it to the land.